Mostly we're busting the reporters and public officials and lots of other people for being in denial, deceit, and delusion around here. And that's what we're going to do today with black violence against teachers in schools. But it's not just the liberals, it's not just the anarchists, whatever we're calling them these days. I saw an example of it myself yesterday when we did a podcast and I did a story for American Thinker about a guy named Peter Navarro. If you're a news hound, you'll probably know that Peter Navarro, he's the point guy for President Trump in the White House on tariffs. He wrote a couple of books about China, wrote a video about it called Death by China, I think they call it. Trump read it, Trump loved it, boom. So yesterday, or the day before yesterday, the White House chief economic advisor resigned because he wasn't down with the tariffs. So it was really this guy Gary Cohn versus Peter Navarro, and looks like Navarro won that round because Gary Cohn quit. Well, I got a lot of pushback because I did a story saying, listen, I know Peter Navarro. He was a San Diego guy for a long time. I was a reporter. I reported about him. I did a TV show with him for years and years on Sunday. I've been to his house, been golfing with him. One Thanksgiving, he and I went to an Indian casino to do some gambling together. I was gambling. He was watching. I like the guy. I've done opposition research on him. So let's just say I know more about him than your average bear knows about him. I've always liked him. But we've always been on the opposite side of at least one thing, which is the topic of economic activity and growth. My friends, my clients in San Diego, they were landowners, home builders, developers. They wanted to be able to build something on their property, use their property that they paid for and paid taxes on without having a bunch of people driving Volvos and wearing earth shoes come up and complaining about it, stopping it, costing them a lot of money, driving them into bankruptcy, putting them out of business. And this is like an everyday fact of life in San Diego. It's the constant fact of life out there. If you want to build something, somebody's going to show up and ask you to do a 5-year study, or they're going to ask you to build it 5 miles away, or they're going to say, hey, there's too many birds, bees, flowers, and trees here, Colin. You can't do that here. They're just going to oppose anything for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't matter. If the thing's built on a hill, they say you can't build on a hillside. If it's built in the valley, they'll say, no, if it's built on a hill, they'll say, no, it's too high. If it's built in the valley, they'll say, no, that's too low. If you build near a desert, they'll say, no, that's too dry. If you build near a river, they'll say, no, that's too wet. If you build on a wetland, oh, no, too wet. It's always something. They're against growth. They just don't think it's that important that people make money, have jobs, and, put a buck or two in their pocket. They don't like that. It leaves a really bad taste in their mouth. That's why they're always out there fighting and shoving against this stuff for whatever reason they can grasp at. If they can use traffic, they use traffic. It doesn't really matter. They're against everything. Navarro's right in the middle, squarely in the middle of those guys in San Diego. I saw it up close for a long time. But we had a lot of people push back, hundreds and hundreds of people push back through emails to me, through comments at American Thinker, through comments on our minds.com/Colin Flaherty site, or on Twitter. Lots of people pushing back going, well, Colin, that's not true. It can't be true. Because Trump wouldn't hire somebody like that. I just thought that was, that's why I wrote the article, because I thought it was interesting that a guy who's made his chops in his life on no growth now is the point guy for growth. People were in such denial, deceit, and delusion about that's who he is. Not a bad person. He's a smart guy. He's a good guy. People like him. Not a bad person. But that's who he is. But people who like Trump somehow decided that, wow, I'm not going to let any information into my head about anything about Trump other than he is God. Hey, listen, I like Trump. Remember, I went to New Hampshire twice during the primaries before the first one. I like him. But I kind of take the same attitude towards Trump that Trump would take towards us if he were in our position. He wouldn't fall in love with us. He would just treat it like a deal. You don't fall in love with deals. You look at it and you say, okay, that guy's with me. He's with me. He's with me. That's good. He's not with me. They're not with me. That's okay. I understand that. Nothing personal. I'll bring you in, put you to the side. I mean, that's people in business, they have to live in a world of truth. Because at some point, if you don't, all your money's going to be going out of your pocket and none's going to be coming back in. And so I got another case of that this morning from one of our viewers here, one of the listeners to our podcast, the viewers of our videos, listeners to the podcast. He wrote me a note saying, hey, Colin, my, some girl says you do have a copy of that video about that story in Green Bay where the teacher of the year quit because her school was too violent, blah, blah, blah. She says she doesn't believe it ever happened. Okay, now, just because you ignore the evidence, that doesn't mean the evidence doesn't exist. Just because you refuse to look at the evidence, to even take 1 minute to look it up, that doesn't mean you can go around saying, oh, Colin, that doesn't happen. Black violence in schools hurting teachers, that just doesn't happen, Colin. How many stories have we done on this? Hell, I'm even surprised. There's 2 ways I keep my videos. I keep them in 3 ways. I keep them on my hard drive. I post them in the cloud. But I also, other people at my encouragement, and I'm grateful for them doing it, they post them on YouTube. And they have the playlists on YouTube. So really, the easiest way for me to find stuff is to go to YouTube. That's my easy way. Go to YouTube, see where. So I would put Colin Flaherty, teachers, violence, black violence against teachers, something like that. Even I was amazed how many episodes of black violence against teachers there were in so many school districts. I was amazed when I went through. I remembered every story we had already done. It was like, oh man, how did I forget that? How did I forget that? How did I forget Baltimore? How did I forget St. Louis? How did I forget St. Paul? How did I forget one and Buffalo, New York, one after another after another? I forget it because there's too many of them. And I'm looking at other episodes of black violence wildly out of proportion. Black on white, black on young, black on old, black on gay, black on straight, black on kitties, puppies, turtles, and now even fish, black on Eskimos, black on Amish. So we got a lot of categories around here. We got a lot of playlists. But even so, this story of teachers being under constant assault in classrooms from black students, it's starting to get a little bit of attention. It's starting to get so big, it's hard to really deny it because there's so many dots out there. And even though a lot of people don't want to connect them the way we are connecting them, with truth, without racism, without rancor, without apology. I mean, this is just too much to deny. I'm gonna throw a few videos on here and I'll talk over a couple of them. You'll get the audio of it. You'll get the picture. And we're just going to see this like a magical mystery tour all over the damn country. If at the end of this, you don't think there's a problem with black students attacking teachers in black schools. Yes, there is such a thing as a black school. If you don't think that's a problem, you don't have the sense to come in out of the rain. Why don't we start in Baltimore?
We'll stay up worried tonight, not because of the weather, but because of what will happen tomorrow.
Inside the classroom, we're about to show you the numbers that you really don't want to see.
You know, when it comes to our schools, we are quick to tell you how students are victims of bullying, fights, even guns.
But in the past 5 years, an average of 4 school personnel in Baltimore City schools is the target of an assault. That's 4 a day.
ABC 2 News investigator Brian Kubler peels back that number and shows us a problem. Many school security experts say it's a very real issue. We're not talking about it until tonight.
We first showed you this video back in November. Students at Digital Harbor High School in Federal Hill taunting, bullying, assaulting a substitute teacher at the front of the classroom. Taken with a student's cell phone, this video pulls back the curtain on an issue many simply don't want or won't talk about.
tremendous amount of stress and anxiety, you know, trying to come up. It's like literally, I have to force myself out the door.
Baltimore City school teacher Jeffrey Slattery wants to talk about it because he still literally feels it. It was December 2010 at Baltimore Community High School on the east side when he stopped a student without a hall pass. The student got physical and Slattery let him go.
He walked down the hallway. I turned around to go back to my classroom. He came up from behind me. And, you know, once I was on the ground and, you know, he's basically standing on top of me and he struck me multiple times. When my jaw broke, I went unconscious and I don't really remember anything after that.
He would later learn it took 4 teachers to pull that student off him. Slattery broke his jaw, wired shut for weeks. He pressed charges and the student was convicted. Slattery's assault by a student was just one of 700 that school year in Baltimore City Public Schools, where its own data shows an average of 4 school personnel were assaulted each day in 2010. That average holds true through the past 5 school years, with a total of nearly 4,000 assaults by students on personnel, with noticeable increases in the last 2 years. Broken down by grade level, it's evident 7th, 8th, and 9th graders commit the assaults more often.
Do those numbers shock you?
No. As a matter of fact, I'm very surprised that they're that low.
Marietta English is the president of the Teachers Union in Baltimore City. It was after this attack on city art teacher Jolita Berry in 2008 when assaults by students raced to the top of mind for most educators. The story went national, fueled by this video posted to MySpace back then. It was the impetus for the union to start keeping its own records by imploring teachers to fill out this form reporting abuse, documentation to lobby for more support to stem this violent tide.
They should not come to work fearing that they're going to be attacked. They should not come to work feeling that they're going to be verbally abused. This is not what we should be coming to work and have to face on a daily basis.
The reality of it is they do, though.
That's the reality of it. Unfortunately, yes.
Now, it's very important to note that City Schools defines an assault as the act of simply touching any school personnel. But as we've shown you, some of the instances can be quite severe. Either way, the administration says any case of this is totally unacceptable and launched a program just last year to turn these stats upside down.
We're faced with children right now who have problems that are none that you could really even imagine. And to treat them just like we treated children in the 1950s is not the appropriate response.
So Karen Weber-Indoor came up with a different approach. Borrowing from her experience turning around schools in the city system as a principal, she is now the executive director of student support and safety. In this position for only a year, she decided to focus on what she calls school climate. Change the perception, feel, and environment of a school, change behavior. A core element of this approach is no longer just teaching the material, but training teachers to relate with the students.
As we saw the suspension numbers begin to creep up, we realized that we had to do some different messaging to the adults in the building because we're the ones who are in control of what happens in the environment. And as soon as we give that control over to children, well, you've got a problem.
It's a problem experts we spoke to say is nationwide and by no means unique to Baltimore City. But Weber-Indoor's approach is, already having worked with 32 schools last summer and is set to work with 32 more this year. Her confidence buoyed by already beginning to see what she called a drastic decrease in suspensions in that pilot group of schools.
So the messages can be articulated to the adults, and adults can be coached in how to have relationships with children. And that's what we're doing as a district.
The results of which are beginning to garner attention from other school districts around the country, but an impact for some here at home that cannot come soon enough.
I feel that in the long run, I don't know how much longer I can be a teacher.
But Jeffrey Slattery doesn't want to quit. He went back to teaching in the city school system just this year. Now diagnosed with a moderate form of post-traumatic stress disorder because of his attack, it is a struggle.
There are days I just shut the lights off, lock my door if I don't have any immediate obligations like a parent conference or a team meeting or something of that nature. And I just sit in my office and I just weep, praying to God that I have the strength to go through the rest of the afternoon. and by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I have nothing left to give anybody.
I'm not going to sugarcoat my reaction to this. That sounds horrible.
Oh, it is. It's not an easy life. But the thing is,
Why do it?
Because I love what I do.
A dedication to his profession and his students, in spite of being on the severe end of a troubling statistic. In Baltimore, Brian Kubler, ABC 2 News.
We just heard a school labor union official in that audio there. Did anybody recognize her? She's the head of the teachers in the city of Baltimore schools. She's the one in Memphis at a convention of black elected officials. She went into this convention in Memphis, black state elected officials. She went there as a union leader, and she got up, talked to Roland Martin, and she reminded Roland Martin that the problem with black schools is, well, we don't have, we don't have enough black teachers. We need teachers who, when one of the black students says, "What's up?" you know what they're talking about. Remember her? That's her. Well, that's the double-edged sword of this thing, right? The unions are the ones controlling the school boards. The unions elect all these crazy people that look the other way at violence against teachers. And then the union turns around and goes, I think some of our teachers are under attack. So the teachers are really down with the cause, but all of a sudden the cause is not down with them. All of a sudden the cause is victimizing them. And a lot of these union officials don't know what to do. Because if they knew if they were going to be loyal to their members, they would have to start telling the truth about black criminality in schools. And that's a narrative they don't want to tell, because that would mean everything else in their life is a lie. The only question is why teachers let their unions get away with it. Let's go up to Baltimore. Same story. Teacher under attack. Union official standing around looking as if he is surprised.
No one investigates like News 4. Concerns are growing at a troubled high school in Buffalo.
We have obtained video of a teacher caught in the middle of a violent brawl, and we do want to warn you, the footage is graphic. The fight happened at Bennett High School, which has been the subject of an ongoing News 4 investigation. Teachers fear for their safety, and some say they are concerned about the direction that the school is heading. Tonight, the teacher is speaking only to News 4 investigative reporter Luke Moretti. Luke?
Last month we told you about Bennett teachers who had come forward asking for help. They had even appealed to the school board, saying conditions had become chaotic with students fighting and roaming the halls. Well, now we have a vivid video that describes just what they were talking about. Watch closely as a Bennett High School teacher tries to break up a fight between female students. It happened last week inside the school as teacher Kevin Cody was leaving for the day. Cody is the one in the baseball cap. He says as he attempted to get between the students, punches landed to his head, back, and shoulder.
I remember one hitting me in the cheek and another one hitting me in the shoulder, but I don't really recall how many because it's chaos at times like that.
Cody, who's been teaching at Bennett for 9 years, tells News 4 investigates that he jumped in because he could not stand by and watch someone get hurt.
When I got in between them, I figured that would be it, but she never let go of her hair and started swinging, and those were hitting me.
We showed the video to Buffalo Teachers Federation President Phil Rumore.
And they're starting to beat him up.
Rumore watched the video over and over and could not believe what he was seeing.
Oh my God.
For teacher Kevin Cody, who's out on sick leave because of a previously scheduled medical procedure, the very thought of having to walk back inside Bennett makes him tremble.
Every time I think about going back, I start to shake. I can't, right now I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I could ever walk back in there again, and I know I have to.
We usually advise our teachers don't get involved in it, call the security guard. But unfortunately or fortunately, teachers aren't built that way. They have to try and break up the fight so that one of the students doesn't get hurt.
During an interview with News 4 earlier this year, Cody talked about his passion for teaching and mentoring and his concern that Bennett had become unsafe.
My issue is I see these kids and I care about them. I care about them passionately, and you feel myself going up because some of these kids, they have nothing.
Phil Ramore sent a letter to the district in February in which he complained about a lack of security officers at Bennett. This is obviously a dangerous situation, he states in the letter. We need more, not less security. Now, 3 months later, a teacher says he was injured breaking up a fight.
This is horrendous. But it happened because there's a lack of discipline in the school to begin with.
Buffalo Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Pamela Brown was asked about what action was taken.
I cannot comment on the specific actions that have been taken, but certainly we are ensuring that the appropriate process has been followed.
Ramore has been highly critical of the way Bennett principal Terry Ross has been handling things. Now, with this latest fight involving a teacher, Ramore says the buck stops with Ross.
Well, I just don't believe that this person has the qualifications or the temperament or the ability to be a principal in a high school. I just don't think he has it.
But Superintendent Brown sees things another way and remains supportive of Principal Terry Ross.
I think he continues to work very hard to bring that school community together and to establish the kind of culture and practices there that will generate better outcomes for students, and we continue to support him in that effort.
Teacher Kevin Cody says he decided to come forward to set the record straight about conditions inside Bennett. He was especially angered to hear that the principal yesterday told faculty that the situation has improved.
This personally is my favorite story of black violence against teachers, because this is the story where the teacher is the most honest. And this is the story that gives us the best example of the faculty, the administration pushing back and basically going, man, we had no idea we were having any trouble in our classrooms. This is down in Memphis.
And we start with WMC Action News 5 investigator Jason Miles live with disturbing claims from a teacher. Jason?
Well, this teacher shocked those listening to her allegations here at the school board, including one episode involving two students, a fight, and a broken calculator.
I had a student take a calculator and beat another student upside the head, broke the calculator, was not suspended.
Math teacher Danita Martin's tales of school terror prompted gasps from this crowd.
Another student got the scissors and started making a stabbing motion. When I went to administration, they said, well, he was already suspended earlier today. What am I supposed to do?
Martin told members of the Shelby County School Board that student behavior at Grandview Heights Middle is at an all-time low.
I'm called by my students gay, lesbian, dyke, sir, and my favorite, white girl.
She cited the ongoing verbal assaults as primary reasons for her pending resignation.
Students tell me, who the F-bomb do you think you're speaking to? And shut the F up talking to me. But they go unpunished.
When the teachers try to control them, they even irate with the teachers.
Parent Latrina Robinson came up to us during dismissal Wednesday to offer her account on the state of students here.
They shouldn't have to come to school and be worried about being picked on and teased on and all that. And then they come up here and be like they just got it under control, and they don't. They can't control these kids.
She said she's moving her son out of the school as soon as possible, following the lead of at least one teacher. And take a look at this. This is a statement Shelby County Schools issued in response to Ms. Martin's claims. It reads, quote, the allegations made last night were very serious and we will need to investigate before we can provide an official response.
You know, I was looking for one story out of St. Louis where the TV stations in St. Louis did the exact same story as the first one we heard here from Baltimore. They just went around to a lot of teachers and they said, yes, we are under constant attack. Had a teacher spray dog repellent and perfume in my face and call me all kinds of names. It was like one after another they'd go to the teacher. They finally got the union official in there, and the union official said, this is in Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, by the way. They got the union official in there, goes, yes, we're really working hard. You know, it's like blah, blah, blah. Your membership is under attack. You know it. Or to quote Obama in Dallas, you know it. And you're standing by. Well, they're not. Maybe they're pushing back a little bit. Here's a crazy story out of St. Louis, which was even crazier than the one I was going to show you. So in St. Louis, so many teachers, hundreds and hundreds of teachers were quitting in that district every year before their contract was up. And the main reason they're quitting is because the classrooms are unsafe. But here's the thing, in the year 2015, the problem was so bad, to get a job in St. Louis, you had to sign a contract. You had to agree that if you left before your contract was up, i.e. before the year was out, you had to pay us $3,000 penalties. All of a sudden, all these teachers are leaving and going, what? You're going to try to hold me to a contract where I am in danger every damn day? Here's a story from a local St. Louis newspapers. Teachers who were threatened and assaulted in their classrooms in St. Louis schools faced a difficult choice. Continue teaching in a hostile environment in a district that provided little support, or quit, leaving behind jobs they love but could no longer safely perform, and face a fine from the district for leaving before the end of their contracts. 32 teachers were sued by the district for $3,000 each. They went to court. Even a judge said, listen, are you serious? You're operating a school district that is unbelievably dangerous. And I mean, some of the teachers, some of the labor union officials are saying, security, that's the number one reason I hear for people leaving. Another teacher was pregnant, and a student said he was going to kill her and slice her open and kill her baby. And there were no repercussions. I mean, that's the thing. We've done a bunch of stories here. We're not going to do videos or audio here. I mean, there was a story, we have the video. A teacher went and grabbed a cell phone from one of the fellas. He got angry, demanded his cell phone back. The teacher started explaining to him that he was not going to get his cell phone back. He picked up a chair and threw it at the teacher. The teacher goes down to the office and said, hey, that dude just threw a chair at me. What did the principal say? Going, oh no, that's not happening on my watch. Kids aren't attacking teachers on my watch. No, because if we let that happen, this school will degenerate into nothing but one big warehouse of anarchy and chaos. That's not what he said. What he said was, excuse me, Mrs. Smith, I don't think you should teach here anymore because you cannot keep control of your classrooms. We've done a half dozen of those stories. White teachers fired because they were victims of black violence in their classrooms. They always take them to court. They always win. And everybody shrugs their shoulders and goes, wow, that's weird. I wonder who was responsible for that violence there. This is a big thing in St. Louis. And yes, school violence in St. Louis, violence among the kids, violence among the teenagers, whether it's in schools, whether it's in downtown, whether it's by the arches, whether it's a couple hundred black people rampaging through the downtown, destroying cars, defying police, ruining restaurants. Yes, that's the kids. And just because the reporters and public officials in St. Louis, they don't want to admit it's the kids, unless, of course, they're trying to get extra money for the kids because they are black. Well, this motivational speaker, he didn't have any trouble at all figuring out what was what when he went to a St. Louis school and the kids were talking during his speech.
And you're going to have the nerve to laugh and joke when teachers trying to teach you? You got the nerve to act a fool when somebody cares about you? You talking while I'm talking? Do you know if I go to a Jewish school, them kids quiet? If I go to a white school, them kids quiet. If I go to a Latino school, they quiet. The only kids that disrespect me is black kids. That's it. My own are the only ones that disrespect me. I walk in any other school, they like, there go E.T., we taking notes. I come home, you talking. You capping jokes. You think something funny. Look how we living. Ain't nothing funny. Ain't nothing funny, y'all. Look, when I got my PhD, what embarrassed me, I'm in there, they asking me like, what's wrong with our urban schools? Like, why are you asking me? I'm in classes like you in class. The teachers want to know, professors want to know, well, why are your kids, what's the problem in the school system? I'm embarrassed, y'all. I'm a grown man. I'm embarrassed that they talk about y'all. And you know why I'm embarrassed? Because what they don't know is you ain't even trying when you take the test. You didn't give your best. They think you dumb. You ain't dumb. You can't take our people from Africa and put us in the diaspora and spread us all over the world and we survived slavery and we can't pass the test? Come on. I ain't stupid. You take everything from us and we still survive? And you gonna tell me we can't learn how to write? Have you lost your mind? We are survivors. That's all we do is survive. And you gonna come and tell me you can't take a test. No, you can take the test. The problem is when you take the test, you barely take the test. I challenge you to go in there and get that doggone piece of paper and that pencil and do your best. I challenge you.
So much argy-bargy up in Milwaukee. I mean, that's the scene of the title of my first book, right? Don't make the black kids... I get my books mixed up. White girl bleed a lot. 100 black people go into a store on video. They loot it. Candy, sodas, alcohol. Take it to a park nearby. It's the 4th of July fireworks night. See a couple of white kids in this little park. The kids are doing the Norman Rockwell spread a blanket picnic basket. Oh, look, Mary, look at the fireworks. Aren't they swell? Yes, Johnny, you're swell too. They're doing one of those deals. Large group of black kids come in and beat the piss out of them. At one point, a black girl is standing on a white girl, pointing to her and laughing and motioning to her friends to look what she's pointing at on the ground. When she pronounced to shrieks of laughter, to gales of hysteria, she pronounced white girl bleed a lot. Took the Milwaukee police days and days and days to figure out what was going on because they didn't even take a police report. It never would have gotten done unless those kids went down to the police station, then to talk radio and the local media to say, listen, we were the victim of a large-scale black mob violence, and they didn't even take a police report on it. That's how they roll in Milwaukee. So here's a story from Milwaukee. Milwaukee public school teachers assaulted by students. Punch, kicked, or injured. That's what Milwaukee public school teachers say they are facing on a regular basis at the hands of students. CBS News found dozens of claims of battery, assaults, and fights. One former staff member is speaking out, saying, bottom line, teachers are in danger. We don't have, for some reason they took the video down, they left up this part, so I'll do the video, I'll do the audio part. They are in danger. Danger is the reason Milwaukee public school teacher David Larson quit. He says MPS teachers are afraid to work and they're afraid of being put in the middle of out of control fights. I've been kicked, I've been hit. One kid almost stuck a pencil in my eye. I've been on the floor many, many times. Kids breaking up fights. Does anybody here really think this is just a Milwaukee thing? Does anybody here want to tell me that black violence in schools or school violence in schools in Milwaukee is a white thing? Laverne and Shirley are up there doing all this stuff. Go ahead. I dare you. So many videos, so many stories of black criminality in Milwaukee. So many stories of the white liberal mayor, the white liberal police chief, who really sometimes gets a pass for this. Basically just in total denial, deceit, and delusion. Anybody remember the Milwaukee riots? All the black people running around setting things on fire, shrieking with laughter as they did it. Do you need to see that or hear that on video as well in order to believe it? Here's one teacher in Milwaukee who's going to talk about it.
8-year-old could face charges after punching a teacher in the head. It happened at South Division High School and was all caught on video. Now the teacher is speaking out. CBS 58's Kristen Barbarisi is live outside police headquarters with what he has to say. Kristen?
The teacher tells me he has a sore neck and back and a possible fracture in his jaw. And he says what happened in that classroom shows some of the challenges teachers face every day. It's a video that's gone viral. Damn! A 16-year-old student attacking a teacher, knocking him to the ground and punching him repeatedly. That teacher spoke to CBS 58 Wednesday. He isn't ready to go on camera, but says, "We offer help with all our heart, but there's an anger that lashes out at those trying to help the most, and I don't understand it. I really don't." One woman whose granddaughter attends South Division High School says she hopes the student is expelled.
It didn't make any sense at all. That could have been my granddaughter that he could have been beaten on. But in still reality, that's wrong for beating on a teacher.
The video sparked outrage among elected officials. Alderman Bob Donovan calls the assault shocking and disgusting. And Alderman Terry Wachowski says the incident should result in nothing less than expulsion and criminal charges. The teacher says they're trained to defuse situations and walk away, but that wasn't possible in this case. He added, "People at MPS and the school have been great, and they're committed to the students, but we need help. We can only open the door. Kids have to walk through it." The district attorney says this case will be referred to juvenile court. The school district tells us they are cooperating with police, but declined to comment further on the incident.
Here's a story out of the Star-Tribune, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Headline: Charges, student choked and body slammed a teacher at St. Paul Central High. Teachers Union files request for mediation. And this just goes on and on and on with details, not just in this one story, but as they say here, the student on staff violence that has been increasing at an alarming rate. By the time this episode was over, a teacher had to be hospitalized with brain injury. An assistant principal had grapefruit-sized bruise on his neck, and a 16-year-old student was facing felony charges. Teachers Union comes out and put out some statement going, "Wow, we didn't really know this was happening. This has to stop." On and on and on and on. There was a guy up there in that district who made he got a lot of attention for talking about the violence directed at teachers. But I don't know that anybody up there really took it that seriously. It's just a thing in school. Isn't that what we did when we were in school? I remember going out to the garages, man. I remember Johnny and Joey out there trading punches. It's just kids. They're just blowing off steam. That's what parents are desperate to convince themselves so they don't have to confront the fact they're sending their kids, black or white, into some ridiculously dangerous situation where nobody's learning anything. I take that back. The only thing they're learning is education is not important. And whatever the else you do in life, you don't have to worry about getting schooled because there's always going to be somebody, whether it's a school or a food stamp office or a welfare office or a workers' comp office, there's always going to be somebody there to give you a bunch of money for no damn reason whatsoever. That's what they learn. Why don't we head on over to Green Bay? Does Green Bay strike anybody as a center of black violence and criminality? We haven't done that many stories out there, but the one we did, I'll never forget this. A couple of cops from Minneapolis. Not talk about centers of denial, deceit, and delusion. A couple of cops in Minneapolis, they take a vacation in Green Bay. I guess that's what you do when you're in Minneapolis. Hey, let's go to Green Bay, party in Green Bay. So these two cops in plain clothes are walking down a well-traveled street downtown Green Bay, such as it is. There's like 10 fellas. Start harassing them, taunting them, threatening them, and visiting violence upon these two cops. Cops stuck around, gave some back, detained a few, called the Green Bay police. The Green Bay police could not have been less interested. And then they released a body cam and sent it to the chief of police in Minneapolis, because when the cops from Minneapolis who were on the streets of Green Bay learned that the guys who attacked them were going to walk without even a citation, oh no, they were not happy. They were not happy. Sent the videotape to Minneapolis. They got fired. They got fired because they were victims of black violence in Green Bay. And when they fought back and they didn't get any assistance from their brothers in blue, they got fired for it. So this story got a lot of attention. Kind of briefly, but it was something. Let's listen to this.
Green Bay middle school teacher resigns after saying she suffered abuse on the job. She made the announcement at a school board meeting recounting alleged physical, mental, and verbal abuse and accusing school administrators for failing to act. NBC 26's Eric Crest is live tonight at Washington Middle School with more.
Miss Westcott worked here at Washington Middle School for 9 years. Now, earlier this month, she testified in front of the school board, telling them that she chose this school because she wanted to work with at-risk youth, adding that she called it her calling in life, what she was made to do. But she says that over the last 5 years, this year in particular, the school has been headed in a downward spiral. Westcott claims colleagues and her fear for their and their students' safety every single day. She says teachers are called vile things daily, students are robbed, and staff has even been sent to the hospital on the account of fights breaking out here. Now, Westcott says she had to resign because she wouldn't survive another year here.
One of my colleagues has headaches every single weekday and is taking medication. Another one wakes up with cold night sweats several times a week. One had nightmares for days after being threatened by an aggressive student. Just a couple weeks ago, a teacher was taken away in an ambulance with a bleeding head wound caused by a fight among 3 students.
Now, the reason that Westcott says that she spoke out at that board meeting earlier this month was for all the teachers and students that remain here. Now, what she hopes is that administration and the school board will try to take a larger role in making the school safe. Keeping you connected in Green Bay, I'm Eric Crest with NBC 26.
Green Bay School Superintendent Michelle Langenfeld responding to the accusation, saying, quote, "I also visited Washington Middle School 2 other times in May, and at those times, I did not witness behaviors that would have raised concern. So it is with deep sadness that Kirsten had not shared her concerns with me prior to her resignation in June."
Syndicated columnist Walter Williams writes a lot about race, racial violence, racial inequity. Now, he's not down with the entire narrative of black victimization. He's kind of, he and Thomas Sowell are usually often paired together as two guys that are just sitting there going, listen, if you listen to them and do what they say and adopt this victimization, you are doomed. So you better get your life together, take personal responsibility, and find something to do with your life, or you don't have a single damn chance, with or without white racism that is relentlessly trying to keep you down. No, you're keeping yourself down. So Walter Williams, I've actually been mentioned in a few of his columns, been honored to be a part of his column more than one occasion. Let me see. So here's a story that he wrote about this topic. As the new school year begins, you might like to be updated on some school happenings that will no doubt be repeated. This might give us, then I'll paraphrase, and because of all this bad news, you might want to start asking the black leadership. The ongoing and escalating assault on primary and secondary school teachers is not a pretty sight. He talked to a PTSD counselor in Houston, in Chicago, who said, of the teachers I have counseled over the years who have been assaulted, 100% of them have satisfied diagnostic criteria for PTSD. It's not just big city teachers. It also happens in Baton Rouge, and it happens a lot. If you've ever talked to a teacher, they're on the front lines of this, right? Every day. Teachers and bus drivers might be on the front lines of this. They're not quite as, their experiences aren't quite as intense, but I think they have a more relentless quality about them. Anyway, let's get back to Walter Williams. He starts giving a few examples. A Philadelphia 7th grade girl with a history of incidents against her teacher sprayed perfume in her teacher's face after telling her that she smelled, quote, like an old white pussy. Then she told her classmates, quote, I'm about to kick this bitch's white ass. She pushed the teacher and knocked her onto the floor. Another story from Philadelphia, a 68-year-old substitute teacher was knocked out cold by a student. Earlier that year, 2 teachers in the same school were assaulted. This is in a district where they employ 400 school police officers. Oh, yeah. Who's that kid down in Parkland, Florida? The kid what's his name? David Hogg, is that his name? He sent out a tweet the other day. So he's like the oracle now. He's like the guy you go to for answers about everything. He's the guy saying the NRA is bad, Trump's bad, Dana Loesch is bad, and everybody's bad. And so I don't know why he got on the topic, but he was talking about, somebody was saying, yeah, we need more school resource officers. And he goes, no, we can't do that because studies have shown that school resource officers, they pick on black people disproportionately for no reason whatsoever. So there you have it. Let's get back to Walter Williams, i.e. a guy who knows what he's talking about versus some kid who just makes stuff up based on what some crazy adult whispered in his ear. In St. Louis, says Walter Williams, teachers have had pepper spray and dog repellent sprayed in their faces. Then he talked about the incident we talked about. Baltimore teacher had his jaw broken. Talked about how 4 staff members a day are assaulted every day. A 325-pound high school student in Houston knocked out his 66-year-old female teacher. Nationally, an average of 1,175 teachers and staff were physically attacked every day. 1,100 teachers a day. This column was written in 2015, right in the middle of the we're not going to criminalize students, we're not going to call the cops in. That's what happened down in, I've been writing about this for a long time. Not the only one, but I've been writing about this, how they're getting the numbers down in their schools. They just don't call the cops. They let the resource officers take it. As a result, so many schools now are just warehouses of anarchy and violence and chaos. Nobody's learning. Nobody's passing tests. In Baltimore, 16 high schools, there's not one person who can pass a test over a 3rd grade level. Last year in Washington, D.C., says Walter Williams, an official of a teachers' union tried to explain to a national gathering, I think he's talking about the story we just mentioned in Memphis. I know he's talking about her. Tried to explain to a national gathering of black elected officials why white teachers are so problematic for black students, saying they just do not understand black culture. Excuses and calls for leniency will embolden school thugs. Right after this column came out, Walter Williams wrote another column where he kind of gave me a lot of credit for something. I kind of did, but I wasn't the only one doing it. But I should have gotten credit for this column. I think I didn't bust him on it. I didn't bust him on it. Basically because I've been reading his stuff for all of my adult life. So I'm not going to go to Walter Williams and say, hey, Walter, I think your research assistant just grabbed all this stuff out of my book. I would have appreciated a little hat tip just because I'm trying to sell the stupid thing. I make a buck from time to time. Yes, I know Peter Navarro doesn't like it when good old Colin makes a buck, but it's okay because Peter Navarro's mom is very, very, very rich. Oh, you didn't know that? That's how he survives in addition to his book sales. Everybody in San Diego knows that. Off the topic here. We better get back on the topic. Anyway, so, that's Walter Williams. And, he's all over this top to bottom, like a lot of people should be, but who are not. I'm still kind of waiting for the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, because those are the two that did the tag team on the academic excellence for African American students in schools. They're the ones that did the tag team because they have bureaucrats from both of those agencies together traveling around the country, going to school districts, looking at disparities, going into places and going, hey, why are you suspending black students and white students at different rates? Why is that? There's not one staff member who would look these federal officials in the eye and say, well, it's really because black students are out of control in our school and they behave way differently than white kids. No, everybody bought into right away that the only reason there's any disparities is because of white racism. And now we have an enormous amount of violence directed at teachers. If you Google this, violence against teachers, you'll see lots and lots of studies on this. If you look real hard at the studies, if you pull every single one apart, thread by thread by thread, if you get down to the bottom, you'll see little things that says, white teachers are subject to violence at a greater rate than other teachers, but not once will anybody say, I think we noticed a pattern among the students as well. And so nobody's going to say, we noticed that black students are being suspended 5, 10, 15, 20 times greater than white students. What if they're being suspended for cause? What if they are the ones behind this violence at teachers? We've got so much video on this, right? It's like we've got so much video, but so few people willing to stand up. Is there somebody going to stand up now in the Department of Education or the Department of Justice? They were standing tall during the Obama administration on this, that's for sure. Now everybody seems like they're cowering. Because when you talk about black violence against teachers, no, don't do that. That's guaranteed to make the black kids angry.